That's what the whole shit means when you put it together. It's a book on alchemy. Because they got the different, so the surahs is the surah of this and the surah of that. That's the surah, the compounds of damn alchemy, the different elements. So the Kaaba actually is supposed to be a stone that came from Saturn. And they also the science also bear witness to that, as well as in Hamlet's Mill is where I got the information from. But also, the crackers went to damn Mecca and stole a piece of the Kaaba in the early part of the century. You're in the beast hell now. He went up in the damn Kaaba now and took a piece of that shit and brought it back to Europe. I think he brought the shit back to America and analyzed it, and it was melanin, carbon. And it's the same composite that what Saturn is dealing with. So then they say the philosopher's stone is that of Saturn, which in actuality is Saturn is also the same thing of melanin. And they also bear witness that the Kaaba came from Saturn, so that's what the whole thing is dealing with, where they make a pilgrimage to melanin, is to go to the melanin part. You make the pilgrimage, what you're supposed to make is in your body, make a pilgrimage to the goddamn Kaaba, which is the God, which is the melanin. You make a pilgrimage. So they have physically made a tradition out of making a pilgrimage to Mecca. You're supposed to make a pilgrimage basically to the higher regions of the soul or the brain and all. And basically, Saturn stands for lead. That's also a part of Saturn. You know, lead is black. Also called a philosopher's lead, which means melanin. Melanin is equal to Saturn, and Saturn is another word for the ancient Satan. So Satan used to be, so before they didn't call it Saturn, the planet was called Satan. That's why you got that little book back there, Satan. I don't know if you still got any more of them astrology books. Satan, you got one left. Satan, the new look at the old devil. And it's on astrology. And in there they talk about the blackness and stuff. So before it was called Saturn, Saturn is only an English modified word or Latin modified word of the word Satan. And so Satan means melanin, you see. So Saturn is also gold inwardly. So they talk about the goal of alchemy. To make gold, they're talking about you can make the gold in your brain. The gold in your brain. Now, also, as long as the black people, because see, we got in another time cycle, as long as the black people have the philosopher's stone, which is melanin, they are rich people on earth, inwardly. And they will never be rich on earth physically in mass as they were in the past. So the reason why you can't really make it in this cycle in the masses, you see, you basically, you know, in actuality, you know, a lot of the people that you have actually rich is because these white people actually set up. They choose on what niggas they gonna give billions of dollars to, and you know, basically them niggas is always loyal to the cracker in some form or fashion. So based on you having an actual goal that's on the inside of you, you can't really receive vast amounts of money. And that's why if you go around the country, all the melanated nations are in poverty in some way, some form or another. They're not rich people. That's because they have a goal. And so the cycle, in actuality, you can't draw to you what is in you. The only reason how sometimes you can draw it to you is in actuality you are dead as far as not conscious. But most basically, the more conscious you become, the more and more in actuality money start walking away from you. Like I got a friend down in Florida, and all his friends around him is getting rich. They came in his housing complex, and they told him they had some kind of wood, and everybody who had this kind of wood, there was some wood that they put together, some wood that people were suing about it would make the houses fall down. And he said all the people was getting like $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for having this wood in their house. He said everybody in the apartment complex had it but him. He said, now wouldn't it be my ass? But then again, he's conscious. And the psychic told him, he said, you ain't gonna get it. Because you know about the gold. Basically, you have gold on the inside because that gold is actually igniting. So this is a part of melanin. So now Saturn is both a composite of both Sol, which is a star, or the sun, or a sun, not the sun up there, and Luna, which is the moon. So they say that Saturn both The moon and the sun is a composite of Saturn. That's the black and the light and all. Saturn also is both in Saturn. So Tahuti is known as the moon, the lunar. Also, Tahuti is also a form of Mercury also too in some things. Tahuti is also a form of the lunar, as well as Elijah in the Bible is also the lunar, which is always the forerunner. So Tahuti comes, and Heru in there is known as the sun. So these are terms of the yin and the yang process, the darkness and the light, and all also too. So Heru, so Tahuti is the lunar, and Heru, both of them together represent Saturn, or represents the philosopher's stone, or Elijah, which is the forerunner to the Christ. Also, these are alchemical terms also too. Tahuti means moon. Heru means sun, which is both in Sirius, or which is both in Sirius, the sun behind the sun. No, excuse me. Heru means sun, which is Sirius, the sun behind the sun. The moon represents Sirius B. And the sun represents Sirius A, so that's where you get the star and the crescent from. You see the star and the crescent from. It's a real good book. That you got them over there, Moon Magic. It's real good. That's a damn good book on the moon, the lunar thing. So the moon is in actuality based on metaphysics and based on occult. It's more powerful than the damn sun, because that sun out there is only a reflection of a greater sun. So if you want to get talking about, it's more powerful than the sun, because the moon was supposed to be separated from the earth, basically, based on the Dogon, based on Elijah Muhammad, based on Rudolf Steiner, that actually got some stuff because they was in the Rosicrucians. So it's Rosicrucian stuff, the left over by the Moors, based on Moor science, and based on Necronomicon. Also, the moon was separated from the sun also too. So the moon is very powerful, just like the woman is very powerful. You see what I'm saying? And that sun that they're talking about here is not necessarily talking about the sun that's there, which is the reflection, is talking about Sirius or any other star that's out there, because those stars are also in you, and also, you know, so the moon also dealing with the lunar, also dealing with the menstrual, and the strongest blood of God is the blood of the moon monthly, which the Book of Law says. And it's funny, all the good books there's a book called Dragon Time. It went out of print. Her Blood is Gold went out of print. And one of the good books, the big major study on all that stuff is dealing with the menstrual cycle, and there's also where he uses all the Egyptian stuff he found. And he uses geromancy and all of that as a book called The Wise Womb, if you could ever get your hands on an out of print copy of it. My mate went and ordered a copy from Oxford 2 in the out of print book search, and they located one for her, and they said it was $40. So she didn't go and pick it up, but apparently they had located about 5 or 6 of them, and so she happened to go back down there one day and found a copy. So you can get them in the out of print thing, because the book only came to, the book came out in 1988, The Wise Womb, and all the books on all of Goddess books, all of them mention The Wise Womb by Peter Redgrave. Peter Redgrave's book, The Wise Womb. The Great Cosmic Mother, dealing with the sisters, dealing with the goddess, deals with that. Laura Owen's book, Her Blood is Gold, deals with that. All the books on the goddess deal with that Wise Womb book. So if you can get your hands on some of it and stuff, get it also too. But both where the sun and the moon meets, they talk about the sun and the moon. I saw the sun and the moon, the missions of the sun and the moon. They meet in Saturn, but they also meet in Melanin, the philosopher's stone, which also I said they brought up this particular Necronomicon, these particular things, and all. They brought up these particular passages, the Necronomicon stuff. Dang, I got it upside down. Yeah, there you nope. They brought up this particular information and stuff, and these are you literally see in Moorish manuscripts. And on these Moorish manuscripts, I'll read the translations from them. I'll read the translations from them. And basically you can understand what was going on and stuff on the Necronomicon, and we'll deal with some of that right now also too. Cthulhu, which is Sut, Hulu, or Set, Heru, Cthulhu, also is Unkulu, which is the African god, Cthulhu, which is also just a form of Osiris. Cthulhu represents the records of the Cthulhu or the Cthulhu origins is fragmentary, but it seems to originated in the world of Vhoorl, just another word for Sirius, in the third nebula, just another word for Sirius. He later traveled to the double star arc, so now that's one too. So the rule, which also represents like a whirlpool, is dealing with here. So it's actually dealing with the great cosmos. So excuse me, the double star arcs, which is Sirius A and Sirius B, the words is AOTH, where he mated with the creature called Ibn Yah. That's nothing but Imenja in Yoruba, and also a form of Isis when you're dealing with the what you call it and all. Also too. And produced the great old ones. And it says, his children were a race of beings known as the Cthulhui, who flew to Saturn and from that to Earth. So now also what you're dealing with is when Nadal-Labroth created the Earth, the energy that Sophia sent down through him was the actual Necronomicon, these particular gods, old ones. And the history of the great old ones starts once they get here and they build Atlantis and Lemuria and Alchemoria, but the key is you got to think of this thing, it was in existence for millions of years, despite what the crack are trying to tell you. And it's not like I say, no Nugrian, Grimaldi and stuff. We talking about gods ruling for millions of years, advanced gods. You see them ruling for millions of years. Okay. Upon the arrival, the Cthulhu and his routine took up residence on the continent of South Pacific. What they mean is sometime when the white boy tell you that Lemuria or Atlantis and Lemuria was actually in the South Pacific, somewhere near Australia. What they're talking about here is it was actually one landmass, so you understand that basically when they say that particular part, that might have been a particular part that they were on, but in actuality it was one landmass and stuff. And so we talk about the entire Egyptian things. The Nettas are the Necronomicon as well as the Orishas. The Nettas in the book of Coming Forth by Day is called the T'Challa chiefs. If you want to read in the Book of the Dead, in the Book of the Dead, it's talking about, let me get this word and spell it out for you, which is these chiefs, because you will even see Ra and all of them paying homage to these particular chiefs. And let me get this word here for you. Let's see. Tchachau, the T'Challa chiefs. And in the rituals they'll be talking about the homage of the T'Challa chiefs. That's the great old ones of the Necronomicon, which is necro, which means blackening stage in Arabic. Later on, the word Negro, which was an Arabic term for black people, was necro, which is the blackening stage or the dead stage of Osiris, the dead black god, the god of the perfect black. So it's not. So when they say necrophiliac and necrochromacy and all, and you think it's dead, they name death after the god Osiris or Osar. And so when you get the word necro, it's like necronom, it means black, and it's an Arabic term, or basically Arabic Egyptian term, which is also talking about death is formed as Osiris, god of the perfect black, which is also Osiris is the ultimate example of melanin. Is the ultimate example of melanin. So they continued the routine. They took up the. They also made residence on the continent of the Pacific Ocean, where they built a great city of Rayleigh, which is also Amenta. Amenta is nothing but the dimension of Atlantis before it sunk into another dimension, which you call the underworld. So you're talking about two existences on the earth. to existence on the earth before it sunk into the other world. You see what I'm saying? And so that's the particular part that's getting ready to come back. And the Cthulhu spawn encountered the residents of the elder things that dwelt on earth millions of years before the Cthulhu came. I think that in actuality, I think that Adalabroth had also created a little spawn that he had down here also too. The following the Cthulhu spawn destroyed the elder things and land cities, and the two species declared peace and agreed not to harass each other. The following arrangement, Cthulhu enjoyed many years of freedom in this world. During these millions of years of humanity slowly evolved, which means in actuality, Adalabroth made his energy much stronger, and the actual physical realm started coming more and closer, and the vibratory rates started coming more and more into play and all. Cthulhu spoke of these beings through telepathy and dreams. So in actuality, Cthulhu is nothing but the inside of you, and you had to speak to your physical body, which developed a certain consciousness that was relevant to the physical world. And in order for you to actually, so it's actually somebody shutting your ass up in a fucking damn casket. And you got in your casket walking around saying, hey, I'm goddamn Bobby Hemmitt. And the only way you have to contact your casket is through dreams and mental telepathy. You understand the concept on what it is that the physical body that we so in love with. And then so much the physical casket invents some goddamn mirrors, and the next thing you know, we in love with our bodies. And in love with our bodies. And that's the ego that made us fall in love with that particular part also too. You understand the concept? And all. And so he said that we had to speak to the caskets, I guess, through the dreams, telling them where to find statues of the images that they had brought down from the stars. That's the netters. That's the Orishas, the netters, and all of those particular ones brought down to the stars. The worship of the Lord Rayleigh is in this way of the cult of Cthulhu began, which is the cult of Osiris, the cult of Ife, of the white city central of the white city sun of Ife and all. Also too, did you ever read that thing? Let me see it. The one, this is the one of the white city central sun. Okay. Yeah, this is it. The white city central sun of Ife, which is actually the metaphysical, the esoteric thing, and it goes all the way. It's talking about the Atlantean period of the Orishas. The Atlantean period of the Orishas, which is the white city central sun of the Ife, and it's dealing with that particular part right here. And all, okay, it's a hell of a cover there and all. Yeah, but that there is dealing with the Orishas going all. That's the particular Atlantean phase of the Orishas, and all right, dealing with that particular part, and so that's that particular part. So one day the disaster struck the black Rayleigh, which is talking about the higher realms of blackness, which we all existed on in a conscious state and a chaos state, and may have begun the vengeance of the unknown deities charged in the stars and the moon and being ripped from the earth. Being ripped. Yeah. This is what it says in Necronomicon. It might have happened when the stars and the moon being ripped from the earth. So the moon, when they talk about the moon being ripped from the earth in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, here it is in these particular fragments here that's translated. That these particular ones translated here, that the white boy is saying the same thing, because it's the Moors, same Islamic Moors teaching about the moon being ripped from the earth. And they're saying that's when the whole shit started. Honorable Elijah Muhammad said grandfather Sabaz or somebody ripped the moon from the earth, or whatever the deal is what they're talking about here is this particular time, whatever. It says, no matter the cause of Rayleigh as being sunk between the Pacific Ocean or sunk in the deep subconscious, and Cthulhu and all his spawn, who later on was sank, it says the water blocked their telepathic signals and made them unable to continue their worship through dreams. Now, excuse me, they made them able to continue it through dreams and stuff. It's just that all that's so clouded now. So they're saying water, they're actually talking about consciousness, blocking the subconscious is what they're talking about. And your dreams is just a particular part of the subconscious, but it's just that your conscious can't pick up what the dreams are saying, so the conscious only registers material in the conscious. You see what I'm saying? So you come up and say, oh, I had a dream about, I had on some black shoes. That's because that's the only thing your conscious knows. But it always means something else. That's why dream interpretation, they always tell you that your dream always means something else. It's just not literal, but your conscious does not have, it does not register that particular part. Every now and then your subconsciousness can break through. But that's how good your dreams have to get. You see what I'm saying? Lucid dreaming and all this type of thing here. And all the great lucid dreamer was Rudolph Steiner. He had black eyes and stuff. He might have been a Negro. And all. They fell asleep, but they could not die. They were helpless. They were helpless doing anything, but they were helpless of doing anything until the stars became right. And they would be free from their prisons. When was the stars right? The stars was right on April 23rd, 1994. It's just a matter of us just waking up. Which we are actually doing at this particular time here. They said since that time, Cthulhu and their tombs emerged from the water for brief durations of times. What do they mean by that? They mean civilizations that we built. Kemet, again. Kemet, again. What's the one over in West Africa? Timbuktu and Sangay and Mali. These particular vast empires and stuff. The Ife city of Nigeria, which was spiritual centers before they sunk back down into what you would call the physical or the cultural centers and stuff. These were spiritual centers and stuff, and the people actually had a vanguard and high realms of that particular part. But they always resemble the first time, which would be Lemuria and all, Ray call a mint, which is now in your subconscious. It's a whole different realm in a different dimension. It's kind of hard to talk on these things in the physical sometimes because they weren't on those particular levels. That's the reason why nobody can really find evidence on Atlantis, because Atlantis, the evidence on Atlantis, it wasn't in a particular dimension as it was in the same place in a different time. It was right here, but it wasn't right here necessarily in what this dimension makes up, so they can only find evidence. So the evidence is the only ones that they are able to do is what the Egyptian priests would leave behind. So the Egyptian priests were actually advanced beings that could actually see the other world, see the history of the other world before that, and basically they spent 3,000 years recording all the material that you see on the earth right now. That's the documentation stage. It all came through Egypt at that time, and that's what they spent all those years recording all that particular stuff until the damn Romans burnt down the Library of Alexandria, and the only thing you got now is fragments. And it's just tons and tons of stuff, because they could actually, so the priests actually was there, and they could actually see that stuff and all, because they raised themselves to that particular level to actually deal with that particular stuff. The day will come, however, when the great black city, or the great black city in your head, will return to the seafloor, which is talking about return back from the subconscious to superconsciousness and basically eat up the consciousness. You understand what I'm saying? Will return from the seafloor, and Cthulhu will kill and destroy across the world and ushering in a new age, which is talking about everything that is not of that same spawn. Of that same spawn. Everything that's not of that particular same spawn, he's going to actually kill. It says the more we know of the great old ones, or the others like humanity, it says more or less, it says that free to pursue our own destinies. Now I don't want that particular part. I want to get this particular part here. Where's the part I want to say? Hold on 1 minute. The more we know of the great old ones, the worse it looks for the human race, which is talking about basically white people and everybody who is not a great old one on the inside of the casket. Humanity likes to fancy itself as the Lord of creation, giving it a specific time or effort to conquer the problems of application and logic and creativity. Within the concepts of the Cthulhu myths, however, this is considered a lie. So they're saying the white man just think that he is the shit, but to us this is a lie. This is a comforting disillusion of a fundamentally inadequate race. According to the Cthulhu myths, not only are we, the white race basically, are intrinsically inferior to the older races of the galaxy, we are constitutionally and perhaps neurotically incapable of acknowledging our own inferiority. You know, that's the white man. When the human mind, is brought into contact with the realities of the mythos, or the actually great old ones, the usual response is either death or madness. We are simply unable to deal with the realities of our universe. That's what you see in the movie At the Mountains of Madness. When he got in contact with the great old ones, he went crazy. So what is the final fate of mankind? Are we doomed to random annihilation by the forces beyond our comprehension? Yeah, everything in the physical. Or perhaps we are destined to become mindless slaves for some imical alien race, which means in actuality the slaves, we're talking about energy, so we're talking about going back to the actual other realm that this particular white people, the energy will be dispersed and they'll go back to the other realm. On the other hand, perhaps, these hopeless sentences contain an element of vainglory. Why should, after all, the great old ones even care whether our mad, significant race lives or dies? Certainly it seems to have some sort of interest in they certainly seem to have some sort of interest in our own planet. So it's actually also talking about something so inferior, or something, your physical world so inadequate until in actuality it doesn't even really matter to the subconscious. It's only when the subconscious actually wakes up that we're talking about a certain cosmic forces actually coming back at the particular time. So now, based on this particular part, the Necronomicon, they say that we exist on two levels. The subconscious, which is a whole nother dimension, and we are inside of our own selves. And everything that you talk about a God in another world or alien in another world is we are inside of their own selves. And that's what I want to deal with when it comes to this UFO thing in a few minutes. We are inside of our own self. And the other dimension is this particular tape recorder that's running off, that we got to actually stop this particular physical dimension from existing from the inside out, which means it's shutting off this particular tape recorder that we're dealing with, or this particular movie projector that we're actually dealing with. Which leads me to this particular UFO thing here that we're dealing with here also too, because that's very key, because we know, like I said, they create these particular information, on all this UFO stuff coming out. First of all, if you get any good books by a book, Serial Aldrich, we don't have to really get it. I'll tell you the book to get. You want to get Zachariah Sitchin's book, Stairway to Heaven. Stairway to Heaven, Zachariah Sitchin's book. They'll have a flywheel in there of NASA. They'll show this particular thing that NASA invented in the 70s. That is supposed to be this particular advanced thing that is supposed to, it's supposed to give a certain amount of energy without really using energy. Well, it's interesting because the same wheel that they invented, they found the same flywheel in Egypt. And it's over in a it's over in a museum in Germany. Let me see, do I have damn, I could draw on this thing if I had you got something? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You will see it in the book, Zachariah Sitchin's book, Stairway to Heaven, which is a real valuable book. That particular book, as well as the Wars on God and Man. Did you ever read the Earth Chronicles? Man, yeah. Because there's a part they talk about the Set Typhon, which is the white man up in there, and he said it had baffled Egyptologists that that Set is never shown. Give me some tissue too. Set is never shown with a human head in none of the mythologies, other than his other sisters, Nephthys, Isis, Nephthert, Aset, Isis, and Osiris, Osir. And the flywheel looks something like this. Let me see, did this work? Yeah, it works. And it's this wheel that they have. Yeah, huh? Would you have a piece of, okay, yeah, I need just a piece of tissue or whatever. You can draw on this or whatever. And it looks something like this. I can draw better than this, but it looks something like this. And it has a little hole in it. Anyway, they got an Egyptian, they got an Egyptian thing that looks identical to this. It looks identical to this in one of these museums, and they're trying to say it's a damn bowl, but it's got a big ass hole.